everyone, welcome back to my channel. This has been a video that I've had in mind for like 3 weeks, and I have literally just been marinating on it, curating the perfect list, because I really just did not want to forget anything, and I was so scared that I was gonna like forget one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite albums or something. But I think I'm confident, at least for now, in my list, so hence why I'm finally making the video. But hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Like I said, I've had this video planned for a while, but in this video I'm going to be breaking down my top 10 favorite albums of all time. And the way that I kind of made this list is I approached it in the sense of albums that I listen to in whole often. So like for example, there's a lot of albums that from artists that I will mention in either my honorable mentions or just like artists that I listen to because I wanted to give everyone love, where I have several songs from that album, but I'm never like, oh, I want to go play this specific album. Not that it's like not good, it's just not something I do. Where like the albums that are on this list, if a song comes on the shuffle, I more than likely will just be like, okay, let me just go listen to the whole thing. Like it happens frequently, or I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I want to listen to this in full today. Does that make sense? It's like albums that don't really have standalone songs to me. They're more like bodies of work that I enjoy listening to. I feel like that kind of makes sense, hopefully, the way I'm approaching it. Basically, I'm just going to list off the albums, and as I go, I'm going to explain why they're on my list. Guys, this is like the most stressful thing I've ever done. Also, these are in no particular order, like, because that was just physically gonna hurt me. The only one that's in order is my first album, because I do have a favorite album of all time, but the rest of them I could not be ordering. Like, that's just too much work, that's just too much stress, you know. So, also, I do want to say that I did control myself. I did not put more than 3 Taylor albums on here. Guys, you should be so proud of me. You should be so proud of me. Okay. So, my favorite album of all time, and it has been my favorite album of all time for like basically a decade, is Red, Taylor's version. I listened to this on, well, it used to be October 22nd, and it probably still will be October 22nd because that's when the non-Taylor's version was released, and so every year to commemorate its birthday, I would listen to the entire album in full, but now it will probably be on Red, Taylor's version's birthday, because it'll be 2 years now. But this album just holds like such a special place in my heart for so many reasons. It was the album that would play in the back of my grandma's car growing up, so like me and my sister knew all the lyrics because she would just have it on all the time when she picked us up from school. And Taylor's version, like, there is just something in those vault songs that I just adore. They instantly take me back to sophomore year of college, the same way that like listening to Holy Ground takes me back to like the 5th grade. I just adore this album so much. Like the ins and outs of every single song, I just adore it, and I don't think anything is ever gonna be Red, Taylor's version. And I always like to say like, oh, like, you know, it'd be really funny if I I'd always be like, oh, like Red won't be my favorite forever, but it will be. Like it's just unbeatable at this point. It's so good, especially with Taylor's version. Like the vault songs, they just hit. They absolutely hit. Like I Bet You Think About Me is so freaking good. So was Better Man. I listened to that today. I was like, this song is slipped on. Anyway, I could talk about this album for a whole video. I need to control myself. Okay, then the rest of them, like I said, are in no particular order, so I'm just gonna go down my list. The recent addition, and honestly the album that kind of inspired this video, is Stick Season by Noah Kahan. Stick Season by Noah Kahan has just something about it, guys. Something about it. There are very few times in my existence where a song from Stick Season has come on and I have not been then inclined to listen to the entire album. Like literally I will be walking to class and any one song from Stick Season will come on and I will instantly just change to the album, especially this time of year, because this album, although it's like very late summer vibes, it's also very much like October vibes. So I stay listening to this album. I think I'm like very excited for Noah Kahan's new music, but I think this album in particular is like so lyrically good at just describing feelings of nostalgia and growing up that I've never really seen an album kind of all-encompassing do. I think it kind of takes you on a journey and brings up feelings about growing up in your hometown and nostalgia and childhood and adulthood and that transition and like being in your 20s, because I know he's like 25 or something like that, that like, yes, of course there are songs out there that show those feelings, but I don't think I've ever experienced an album that really like the entire album is about that. And at least that's what I get from it. I think there's something really beautiful about like childhood friends and nostalgia, but there's also something like really haunting about it, and I think that he really brings that out in his album in a way that I like really can't even put into words. I mean, every song just absolutely hits, the extended version as well. Like they're just so good. It's just good. And if you haven't listened to Stick Season in full, you need to, because it's incredible. Next is an album that I will forever hold in my soul as like earth-shattering, soul-changing, I needed this album when it came out kind of vibe, and that is Folklore by Taylor Swift. I'm sure you could guess. Folklore came out the summer between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college, which was also kind of a horrid time for the world because of the pandemic. So obviously the world like was very much in need of this album, but I think like me transitioning from senior year of high school to college, it was just so comforting to have new Taylor music to do that. And I remember hearing 7 and being like or like I can hear The One now, the opening of The One, which is my favorite song from Folklore, and instantly be 18 again. Like, it's kind of crazy. I just like have vivid memories of like packing up my room with this album just on in the background. Like, I must have played it like 100 times, just listening to it in full. And this is also one of those albums where I very rarely don't want to listen to the full thing. Like, of course, like now I think that it's been out so long, every time a song comes on shuffle, I won't immediately go play the full album. But like, there are very often times where I'll get in the car and I'll be like, okay, let me play Folklore. Same with Red. Like, I'm just always in the mood to just listen to those albums in full. And I think Folklore, like, I think this is a big word, but I think it like really saved me in a lot of respects, and I think it was just so comforting. And the same with Evermore. Evermore, guys, I always say this to my friends, but Evermore is higher on the album ranking list than Folklore, but it's because I'm more of an Evermore girly and I like more of the Evermore songs individually than I do Folklore. And I love the Folklore songs, do not get me wrong, I'm obsessed with those. But I will say Folklore as an album, to me, is a better album. Like, as an album as a whole. But I just like the songs from Evermore more, and it's still a fantastic album, obviously, because it's on my list. Everything that Taylor makes is fantastic and wonderful and deserves to be on the list, but I had self-control. And Evermore, like, was more shocking than Folklore, I think, because of course we weren't expecting Folklore, but we also were not expecting her to do it again. And it was in the depths of December. I was a little tiny freshman in college, and it was just, I mean, it came out and I was like, this is what I needed, Taylor, thank you. And I don't think it had the same effect on me that Folklore did, and I also don't think it had the same effect on the world that Folklore did. But it's still like a phenomenal album, and it's the forgotten child. It really is. But it got the love that it deserved on the Eras tour, and I was so happy about that because I'm an Evermore girly through and through. I always get mad when Taylor's like, Evermore is Folklore's younger sister, because to me, Evermore is the older sister, and I'm an older sister. Like, the vibes of the songs are just so much more adult, and I'm just like, yes. Also, you should be proud of me for only putting 3 albums on this list, because my favorite song of all time, not just by Taylor Swift, of all time, is not even on one of the albums that I listed. It's Long Live, Taylor's version, and it's not, like, I didn't even put Speak Now on here, even though I wanted to. Like, all the albums came so close. Next is an album that I'm pretty sure I've talked on this or talked about on this channel before, but it is Divide by Ed Sheeran. Divide to me is the album that is completely unbeatable by Ed Sheeran. Like, I love his work since Divide. He can't beat it. Like, there is just something about 15-year-old me and Divide. Inseparable. Inseparable. I have like vivid memories of being what, a freshman in high school and listening to Castle on the Hill on the bus every single day, talking about it in Spanish class with like a bunch of random people because everyone just loved Divide. Literally, like, I think I saw 25 people from my high school at the Ed Sheeran concert when I was a sophomore, and we took like tons of pics. It was great. There is not a day that exists where I don't listen to Divide and not feel 15, and I love that. I really do love that. Like, I was listening to Castle on the Hill on the way home a couple days ago, and I was like, dang, a lot of time has gone by, and this song has really been with me, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time, and definitely my favorite Ed Sheeran song, I think. Divide is just so good. This next one might be a little controversial, and I will say it's like this close to not putting it on the list, but then I was like, who am I kidding? It's a good album. And it is Hello, My Name is Bridget Mendler. Y'all are lying to yourselves if you think that this album didn't deserve a Grammy, because sometimes I'm like, oh, it's just a Disney album, and then I listen to it and I'm like, no, it isn't. This album is so good. This album also, I keep saying this album, but Hello, My Name is Bridget Mendler, I think I very much loved as a girl. Like, I remember choreographing a bunch of dances to the songs from Hello, My Name is Bridget Mendler. And it'll come on in the car now, and I'm like, dang, this album is good. Like, it has been with me. It's great. And I think I appreciate it even more now than I did. And I think what's interesting about this album, and maybe I'm just not like musical enough, but I think it was like low-key experimental for its time and for its genre. Like, for Bridget Mendler, like coming out of Disney, and the other Disney artists like Selena Gomez, Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, the Jonas Brothers, I think for like a girl coming out of Disney, she was kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. Like, Blonde, that's a freaking good song. Like, the lyrics are so good. And maybe I'm just like tripping. But I think she was kind of pushing the envelope, I'm not gonna lie. That's why it's on the list. Next one, no one's shocked. Sour, Olivia Rodrigo. I think Guts has the potential to one day make it on this list, but I don't think it's been out in the world long enough for me yet. I have to wait a little bit, you know? Sour though? Girl. Everyone's top song is Driver's License. You know why? Because everyone listened to it non-stop. And I was listening to it in July of 2020 on Instagram, so I really loved Sour. I remember this album coming out, and I was just like, yep, she did it. She did it. The way that I associate like Red by Taylor Swift so much with my childhood, like I associate Sour very heavily with like my early college years. Like, I was, because she dropped the singles, like they were pretty spread out over a semester, and then the album dropped in what, May? So like throughout that semester it was very heavy on Olivia Rodrigo music, because it came out the spring of my freshman year, and I think Driver's License came out at the start of the spring semester of my freshman year, like January of 21. And so that whole semester was like just Olivia Rodrigo, like every 5 seconds, which I adored. I saw her the next spring, so like my entire junior year was like leading up to Olivia Rodrigo. Yeah, it's just such a special album. I think it's so good, and it really encompasses like being, like, I know she was what, 17 at the time when she wrote it, but like as a 19-year-old at the time, I was like, dang, this is good. And like Guts is like the mature older sister, and I'm so here for it. Okay, we have 2 left, and then some honorable mentions. So the next one is my favorite Harry album, and that is Self-Titled. I love this album. I think a reason that a lot of these albums are on here is not just because I love them as bodies of work and I think that they're incredible, but I also think that I have very much emotional attachments to the entire album as a body of work. And that is how it kind of is with Self-Titled. Not that I don't really have that with Fine Line and Harry's House, but like Self-Titled to me, like, and kind of in the way that Divide was, like, I think it was just something I listened to all the time freshman year of high school and sophomore year and junior year and senior year, like now. But it was just like kind of a time to be alive, I'm not gonna lie. Like Self-Titled Harry was just so good, and I'm such a chill rock kind of like indie alternative kind of person, and I think this album is really that at its best, which I love. I don't know what else to say other than this album is just so good. It's just so good, and I think every song, despite it only having 10, just absolutely is incredible. The last one on my list is an EP, and that is the Slow Down EP by Peter McPoland. I actually have a whole video on this album, or on this EP, and I will link it down below. But my head was spinning when Let Her Remember, Come Around, and String Lights were released. Like, the Holy Trinity for real. There was like a period of my life where for like a whole month I would just listen to the 3 of these songs back to back, and then he finally released the EP, and I think I talk about this is what the video on Peter McPoland's is about. It's how insane, like I think it was a reaction, I'm pretty sure it was a reaction video to the rest of the songs on the EP when he dropped them, but it is insane like how connected these all are. Like, it is actually bonkers. Like, I'm gonna keep saying like because it's just insane. Not only Come Around, Let Her Remember, and String Lights, masterpieces. Come Around is my favorite out of the 3, but when you like put the other EP songs in there, you're just like, pause, like I need a second. It's insane how connected they are. His voice, phenomenal in it. I just have such a joy and like literal, I'm like, what? Every time I listen to it. It's so good. If you haven't listened to Peter McPoland, highly recommend. He is doing stellar things in music. Okay, now I want to bring up some honorable mentions and then some artists that I listen to a lot. I just don't listen to like albums of theirs in full often, if that makes sense. So my honorable mentions are The Fall by Norah Jones. This is also one of the albums that my grandma would play in the back of her car, and so I very much grew up on it, and it's just so good. Like Chasing Pirates, good stuff. We also have 21 by Adele, which was another in the back of my grandma's car album that me and my sister know all the words to. I feel like every person my age had that same experience with 21 by Adele, not like in the back of grandma's car, but like people just listened to it on repeat. It was probably one of the first albums outside of like Taylor Swift that I really just like absorbed as an album. So yeah, 21 by Adele. I put Happiness Begins by the Jonas Brothers because this was their first album getting back together. I was a senior in high school when it came out, and it's probably my favorite Jonas Brothers album. Or not probably, it is my favorite Jonas Brothers album, so I had to put it on there. And then Billie Eilish's Don't Smile at Me EP. I loved this EP in high school, still love it today, and so I wanted to put it on there. And then I have a list of some artists that I listen to like very frequently, and I have a lot of their songs, but it's kind of like sporadic. Like I'll have like 3 from this album and 2 from this album and like 1 from that album. Or I have multiple of their albums. I just don't listen to their albums in full. Like I'll just shuffle and listen to them a lot, just not the albums specifically, if that makes sense. So some of these artists are Bruno Mars. I have so much Bruno Mars on my phone. I just never like play like the entire 24 Karat Magic album, if that makes sense. I have a lot of Rihanna. I have a lot of Selena Gomez. Tons of Coldplay. I have some Prince, Queen, The Four Tops, Florence and the Machine, Wallows, Whitney Houston, Elton John, Sleeping at Last. Sleeping at Last was in my top 5, I think, artists last year, but I just don't listen to his albums in full. Like sometimes I'll play the Enneagram album, but like I just really have just a lot of his songs. Yeah. Oh my gosh, and oh my gosh, Flicker by Niall Horan. That's an honorable mention. I freaking love Flicker. Guys, how did I forget? I have a lot of Niall too, obviously. Anyway, this is probably the hardest thing that I've ever done, but please don't come for me in the comments. This is just my opinion. Yeah, Great, thank you all for watching. I love making videos about music, about college, you know, the whole thing. I just kind of make whatever I want. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.